Good afternoon, everyone. 4 o'clock straight up on a Thursday edition of On Cue, coming at you live inside the friendly confines of the SR 1029 FM, the Game Remote Studios, part of the Coastal Sports Digital Network, and on the Odyssey app. Rich Quinones here. We got an hour plus to play with on this Thursday. Hope everyone had a good Sports Wednesday, January 7th, 2025, and you are enjoying your Thursday, January 8th, as we are inching closer to a wild card weekend that I think is going to have a ridiculous amount of drama. You get that blockbuster trade yesterday in the NBA. Bye-bye, Trae Young. And for your troubles, you go to the Washington Wizards. Breaking news coming down about 3 hours ago in hoops, with UConn and Dan Hurley is facing a possible season-long suspension for abuse of officials. So we'll mix that in. You got the CFP college football playoffs. And to start things off, as always, you have numerous heads that are continuing to roll. As always, get in on the conversation at Rich Q on Q on social media, X, IG, TikTok, Rich Q and Mike. We are on Rumble, Kicks, IG, X, YouTube, SR 1029 FM, the Game. And as I mentioned, Coastal Sports Digital Network. Download the Odyssey app to get involved in the conversation on this Thursday. So, where do we want to begin? Where do we want to begin on this Thursday? Oh, how about this? How about news coming down in South Beach? The Miami Dolphins, just basically the fish are frying their head coach, Mike McDaniel, out, which, not a surprise. Not a surprise at all. And the bottom line with this, Mike McDaniel fired by the Miami Dolphins, and this is all about connecting the dots, connecting the dots, connecting the dots. Now, let me give Giant fans an update. This is per Gary Myers. No interviews are scheduled this weekend regarding John Harbaugh. He's apparently taken his daughters back to law school following the holiday break. There was some speculation maybe he'd be in New England on Sunday night, supporting his brother Jim. This is per Gary Myers and the Chargers in their wild card game versus the Patriots, but he's not going to be. Next weekend, most likely a very busy week for Harbaugh. And from what Myers is also reporting, and Gary Myers has his pulse on the NFL and the Giants, Harbaugh not interested in looking at a TV option, TV gig. He wants to get back into coaching for another decade or so. He's 63. He's fired up for the next job. Here we go. Now, why do I bring that all up? Because the Miami Dolphins have made the decision to move on from Mike McDaniel. And Mike McDaniel was on the hot seat heading in to the season. And I felt if the Miami Dolphins struggled this season, and the fact that Tua and his contract became such a problem, such an albatross, such a horrible deal, there was a thought that the Miami Dolphins not only would bench Tua, which McDaniel did, but if they struggled, Mike McDaniel was going to be out of a job and the bloom is off the rose. He struggled this season. They rolled over, they laid down early on in the NFL season. You know it, and I know it. They had a no-show versus the Colts to open up the season. They lost to the Patriots, and then they gave up 31 and were just not competitive late against the Bills. They started 0-3. They were at one time 1-6. Now, did they win 5 of 7, 5 of 8 to close out the season? Yes. But it's always, what have you done for me lately? 38-10 roasting against the New England Patriots didn't help. And the Miami Dolphins figured, you know what? 7-10, not going to get it done. We're just going to blow it up. We're gonna start from scratch. And this is what they have to do. And Miami Dolphins have not been a serious franchise over the last 25 years. Let's just call it for what it is. Miami Dolphins have been a joke. Like, we mock my Giants, we mock Cleveland, we mock the Jets. What the hell have the Miami Dolphins done over the last 20, 25 years? And you got a owner in Stephen Ross that is business first and foremost. I'm sure he liked or likes Mike McDaniel, but there were a lot of leaks coming out of that locker room down there in South Beach, especially with the quarterback. And some of the things the quarterback was saying, even when he was struggling, even when he was concussed, even when he was benched, never a good thing. And now you start to tie the dots, you start to connect the dots. Stephen Ross has always been enamored with John Harbaugh. I guess the question is, did the Miami Dolphins did the Miami Dolphins fire Mike McDaniel after they saw that the Baltimore Ravens dismissed John Harbaugh? Was that move basically made because Miami is telling you, we've been eyeing up this guy for a while now? We've been eyeing him up, and this might be the best move for us. A lot of people thought Mike McDaniel was going to be safe, and he just looked absolutely shot midway through the season. So when we start to get into this, the narrative of, oh my God, Giant fans, you need to panic right now because you're going to compete with the Miami Dolphins. No, Ross has ties. He has a fond respect for Harbaugh. But we also went through this whole idea, what's the best fit? What's the best fit for John Harbaugh going forward? He wants to coach. Do you stick him in Cleveland? Quarterback situation in flux. Do you stick him in Miami? You don't know what the hell's going on with a quarterback. There's so many questions that need to be answered, right? There's so many questions. And I think ultimately, if the Giant fan is so insecure on this Thursday thinking you got to compete with the Miami Dolphins, just friggin' relax. All these teams might want John Harbaugh. The question is, does John Harbaugh want these teams? There lies the rub. So Miami had to make a move. Cleveland had to make a move. The Giants had to make a move. The Titans had to make a move. Arizona had to make a move. Todd Bowles, surprisingly enough, coming back in Tampa, but yet they got rid of their offensive coordinator. Now, here's the other thing that's really fascinating to me with this weekend in the NFL. Now, follow along with me. The teams that are playing this weekend, Buffalo, the Philadelphia Eagles, just follow with me. Just do a little dance step with me. Just come on, keep up with me. Pittsburgh. I'm trying to think. Who else do I want to throw in here? Buffalo, the Eagles, Pittsburgh, and Green Bay. So there, you got 4 teams. Now, the question that it seems as though everyone's kind of been asking, right? Well, what happens if the Packers get bounced in the first round? Is LaFleur's job, is he in jeopardy? What happens if McDermott and the Buffalo Bills lose? Is McDermott out? What happens if Pittsburgh gets absolutely thumped by the Texans? Is Tomlin out? And what happens with the Philadelphia Eagles? Now, Nick Sirianni, he should have the equity in the bank because he won a Super Bowl. Kevin Tulo, it's a totally different story. Like, it's starting to set up for the Eagles. The only team that can beat the Eagles coming out of the NFC might be the Eagles. Because the more I start to really think about this game, I think the 49ers are in big trouble come this weekend. This could get ugly early. But we'll talk more about that game later on and tomorrow with all these games. So you got to start connecting the dots. What's the best fit? If one of these coaches get fired, then that's another opportunity for a guy like Stefanski and Harbaugh. I told you this yesterday. You blow through some of these interviews. You blow through the Rooney Rule. You get the minority candidates. You interview these guys, and you hire who you want to hire. But you get through that step first. Then when you sit down with a Stefanski and or Harbaugh, if you're that enamored, you don't allow them to leave the room. Now, the Giants last night had a powwow, a little dinner with former Atlanta Falcons head coach Raheem Morris. Now, again, I personally, I'm not a Raheem Morris fan. I think he would be a good fit as defensive coordinator. I don't know why he's getting a lot of interviews. I wouldn't look at him as a head coach, even though they finished the season strong. But I would say this, with Harbaugh and Stefanski now available, I don't want Mike McCarthy. It's either or. But now you got McDaniel out of Miami, Ross enamored with Harbaugh. What are we competing with here? John Mara's net worth is what? 500 million? I think Stephen Ross's net worth, I mean, what is he? 20 billion? No state tax or state tax, whatever the hell's going on in Florida, which I can't wait to get down to, by the way, God willing. You know, you got the sun, you got the fun, you got a lot of stuff to offer down there. Is that where a guy like Harbaugh, you spend 10 years, you turn the franchise around, and then you go retire on the beach down there in South Beach or Brickell? So there are a lot of conversation to be had. And if you're Harbaugh, you have to figure out what's the best spot. If I'm Miami, if I'm the Giants, and I know I have that type of worth, that value, that money. And again, do you want to walk into a situation? Do you want to walk into a situation where you know you're going to run the show? And that's, if I'm the Giants, I give John Harbaugh whatever the hell he wants. And if it means getting rid of the GM, Joe Schoen, so be it. So be it. Get rid of Joe Schoen. I don't want a head coaching candidate to be worried about taking the job with the Giants because the GM is inept. That would scare me. But the fact that the Miami Dolphins, 24 hours after John Harbaugh, less than 48 hours after John Harbaugh got fired, decide to move on from Mike McDaniel, tells me they've been eyeing up Harbaugh for a while. They were monitoring the situation. I'm not talking about tampering. I'm saying monitoring the situation, kind of keeping a little eye on what's going on. He's a hot commodity right now. And when you have an owner that's been enamored by him, yeah, he might throw everything at him and say, here you go. What do you want? Here's a check, fill in the blank. Fill in the blank. Now, you don't have a quarterback, but that's something you can work through. Do you want to have to deal with the AFC? Do you want to get out of the AFC? You want to deal with the AFCs? Do you want to jump to the NFC? I just think the fact that, you know, this buzz, you almost felt that Mike McDaniel's job was secure. And apparently he had dinner with Stephen Ross, and, you know, it just was not the best conversation. And he didn't feel comfortable going forward with him as a head coach. You know, McDaniel strikes me as a smart guy, but sometimes a little too smart for the room. The guy brought an energy. He was a little outside the box. He was a little kind of goofy with his thinking and his comments, and they had some success, but you got to win playoff games. And that franchise has been floundering for so many years. Now you bring in a guy like Troy Aikman, and we know Aikman loves Harbaugh. And you're getting a guy potentially for the next 10 years that's been around for 20 plus in one spot with Baltimore, that's won before, that can change the culture. That's another thing. The culture within that locker room, from what I'm being told and what I've been hearing, it's not good. I mean, look at some of the cats and characters. And it didn't help when Tua was calling out teammates. Harbaugh's not going to allow that nonsense to go on. He's not. So these GMs, these owners right now, they've got a vision. Which coach is going to fit their vision? And understand, the Dolphins are going to retool. The Giants are going to retool. Cleveland is going to retool, period. And I don't think it helped McDaniel that Tua called out his teammates. And in October, it was a bad month for them, and they fired Chris Greer. So to me, you're Stephen Ross. You got money. You're turning around. Hey, you know what? You want to be GM de facto head coach? Have at it. Here you go. And if I'm John Harbaugh, you know, that might be the landing spot. It might be the landing spot. Look, these guys, these coordinators, when their stock is rising, it's always, man, this guy is a hot candidate. So go to McDaniel. He's very young. He's 42. I mean, scorching in Miami, right? Scorching. But he comes from where? He came from where? The 49ers. He was their former offensive coordinator. So he posts back-to-back winning records in his first 2 years. The toasts of South Beach. Here you go. Walk through Collins Avenue, Brickell, Calle Ocho. Boom. They reached the wild card round both years, but both times they were eliminated. Then you start to see the slide and the drift, and then you see some injuries. You see some, nonsense going on within the locker room. The Hill issue, the two of the concussions given on the contract extension doesn't pan out. They're rolling over. They're not being competitive, and boom, we get rid of the GM. And oh, by the way, a couple months later, guess what? Baltimore just fired John Harbaugh. I love John Harbaugh. Hey, I got to be honest. It's not working out with Mike McDaniel. We need a leader of men. This guy's he's not there yet. So now you got the Dolphins, the Giants, the Titans, the Browns, the Raiders, the Cardinals, the Falcons, and the Ravens. They all have head coaching vacancies. You got to weigh the risk to reward. You have to. You have to. The Dolphins, to me, is that a sexy franchise like the Giants? No. But it's appealing. Gorgeous weather, gorgeous scenery, gorgeous women, Miami. Here we go. Maybe that's up Harbaugh's alley. And if Stephen Ross has an affinity for John Harbaugh, then it's a fit for the Dolphins. The Giants, blue collar, the city, New York, Mara, Tisch. We know about the background. We know about the royalty regards to the NFL with the Mara family. Everyone knows it. And you have an opportunity to take a franchise, a once proud franchise, and turn them around. Imagine this team goes from 3 to 4 wins to 6 to 8 to 9 to 10, and they're making the playoffs. Like a bold move if the Giants gave power to Harbaugh, and this is why I think it was just pure stupidity by the front office to come out after the season right away and back Joe Schoen, because you never know the other dominoes that are going to fall. You never, ever know. Cap for Life 135. We're taking our team back from the national media, Miami getting Harbaugh. Listen, it would be a great, great hire. It would be a great hire. New headphones, who this? He 12-man, Heisman, a.k.a. Steeler Nation, a.k.a. Duval, a.k.a. Vince. I wanted a lot of head coaches until John Harbaugh became available. I mean, I'd be a fool not to want John Harbaugh. Mike McCarthy, take a seat. Take a seat. Take a seat. And I want clarity, I want consistency, and I want a course of action. I want to steady the ship. And all these franchises that I mentioned, the Raiders, the Cardinals, the Falcons, the Titans, the Browns, the Giants, not only are they bad football teams, they've been run poorly over the last several years, over the last decade. They can't get out of their own way. Now, whether it's going to be Stefanski, whether it's going to be Harbaugh, I'll even throw Kingsbury into the mix. But my number one choice would be Harbaugh. I want a no-nonsense coach and approach. But now you're going to have other teams trying to court him. And again, just connect the dots. Connect the dots. And I know it's very easy for people to say, well, there's no way they fired their head coach. You don't think for 1 minute if the Eagles spit the bit and if Sirianni just had horrible, horrible play calls and burning timeouts and just had no clue and they got absolutely destroyed by the 49ers, you don't think for 1 second Eagles fans would chime in on Monday after and once Sirianni fired? Hell, some of you guys were saying it the other day when Harbaugh got fired. Some of you were tweeting at me. Brian Flores, that's an interesting name as well. Like, you give me my perfect scenario, like my little wish list for 2026 with the Giants, because that's my team. Harbaugh head coach, Stefanski McDaniel's OC, Brian Flores is defensive coordinator. This team's going to be a playoff team within a year or two. They're going to be a playoff team. You need the coaching staff. First and foremost, you've got some of the pieces in place. I don't know if I can say that about Cleveland. I don't know if I can say that about Miami. I certainly can't say that about the Raiders or the Titans. I don't know if the Titans have a franchise quarterback. I really don't know. And I love the fact, listen, you can cast a wide net. It's not going to happen at this moment. Now, you want a little call to action? You feel you're going to be pushed or pressured to get it done? Well, the more teams Harbaugh interviews with, obviously, there's more of a courtship, right? And there's more of a, I'm going to chase you a little bit, but you got to put together a plan. You have to be lock, step, and barrel. I got to show you my vision. Here's my vision. This is what we're envisioning for you. I also believe that the only negative, and this is not nitpicky, this is not. And Kevin C and Tom's River the other day, and Kevin C and Tom's River, or I'm sorry, in Brick, when you guys were DMing me the other day and we were going back and forth, I brought one thing up. Harbaugh he is a very no nonsense kind of guy. Is he going to want a lot of power? Right? Like total control. Now, when you bring in a guy like John Harbaugh, it's on the level of a Belichick. It's now I'm saying personality wise, it's on the level of a Bill Parcells. And those guys have what? Massive egos. Massive egos. I think it's one of the reasons for years that the Eagles, if you think about some of the hiring, they never wanted to do anything. Once Howie started to get it, they learned from Chip Kelly. They didn't want that power struggle. Saw a little bit with Doug, won a Super Bowl. You didn't have to worry about it with Andy, right? But you saw it with Doug, and you really, Chip Kelly, obviously, you saw it with prior to when they jettisoned Howie Roseman, go to little kids' table. And that blew up in a couple of seasons. And then Howie got his confidence and his sea legs back, and he did what he does best, and that's crunch numbers and just have unbelievable drafts and steals and trades and acquisitions. And you're not really seeing it with Sirianni, who's more of a de facto cheerleader, not a head coach. Like, you bring in a guy like Harbaugh, you have to think about the front offense situation. That's all. Because to me, I just think Joe Shane doesn't deserve to be a GM going forward for the New York Giants. And I'm telling you, you bring in a guy that has a proven track record, whether it's a Harbaugh, whether it's a Tomlin, whether it's McCarthy, whether it's a Hoodie, whatever. I think Harbaugh, for this argument, because this is the guy I want, you got to remember one thing. You're talking about that power struggle, right? It's my way or the highway. What the hell has Joe Shane proven? This guy's clueless. Look at the trades that he's made. Look at the drafts that he's made. Look at the misses. None of the hits. It's my friggin' show. That's my only problem. And let's just call it for what it is. Joe Shane is not a strong general manager. He's weak. He's soft. You bring in a guy like Harbaugh that all of a sudden, you can't be pissing in the wind with John Harbaugh. You just can't. And that's an unusual dynamic that if you make that higher, pretty much, listen, they can turn around and get rid of Joe Shane. And they can say, John Harbaugh, you're going to take on the Andy Reid old school kind of GM, de facto GM, or the Belichick GM, head coach job. I can see that happening. I can see a guy like Harbaugh, hey, you want me? I want total control over football operations. Because this team, this front office, this franchise has had so many misses. At this point, I'll dance with the devil I know than the devil I don't know. I have no problem dancing with John Harbaugh. But Joe Shane, I don't want him anywhere near this team come April. I don't. I really don't. So now I'm giving you all this power. And I realized that you went through guys like McAdoo, it didn't work. You went through guys like Reese, you got rid of him. You went through guys like Gettleman, it didn't work. Joe Judge didn't work. Pat Shurmur didn't work. Brian Daboll didn't work. I mean, you just let me come in, like Parcells said many years ago. If you want me to cook the meal, at least let me shop for the groceries. And that's where I think, and Stefanski, look, now I've had 24 to 48 hours. Yeah, I can kind of nitpick a little. I can. Like McCarthy, to me, it's probably not cut out for the Giants. Can McCarthy go to a team like Arizona or the Raiders? Probably. Can he go to Atlanta? Probably. The Titans? Probably. The more I think about it, he's not a giant fit. Stefanski could be a giant fit. Kingsbury could be a giant fit. Harbaugh definitely is a giant fit. You just have to be patient. You have to be patient. That's all I'm saying. And now that Miami fires McDaniel, that should raise some eyebrows. Man says John Harbaugh has been watched for a couple of years. He will not help the Giants, just delay the process. Why do you say that? I mean, compared to who? Right? Compared to who? Like, I think it's you're saying he's washed. He's 63. Maybe he just needs a change of scenery. Maybe he's just burned out with the situation in Baltimore. Maybe he realized I can't get through these players. We don't know. We just don't know. I'm not going to sit there and say coaches are washed, because sometimes they just need a change of scenery. And I do find it ironic that the Bucs decide we're bringing back Todd Bowles and Miami decides we're moving on from Mike McDaniel. I mean, you can dream if you want, but the last thing, it worries me that because Miami opened up, there's a reason they fired Mike McDaniel 24 to 48 hours after John Harbaugh got fired. I'm just being honest. And it could be that, will I be disappointed if John Harbaugh goes to Miami? Sure. Can I live with a Kingsbury or a Stefanski? I'll run with that. Just build the coaching staff, build through the draft. I just don't want that GM, and I don't want him having any say. I just don't. That's just me. D, what's going on, brother? Happy New Year to you. I know your Dallas Cowboys got a lot of work to do in the offseason, do they not? New headphones. Who dis? Forget the NFL. We get CFP game tonight. I feel like Chambers has a chance to insert himself into the first round quarterback talk. His numbers and resume are great. His size is the issue, but he has a Kyle type quick. What are we going? We going to finish that up? Yeah, read the room, Vince. It's NFL for a little bit. We'll get to your college football. Seriously, come on, read the room. You wanted to mention NBA the other day. Got to read the room. You want to talk Trae Young for the next 45 minutes? I'll do that. Inmates don't run the asylum on the show. You should know better. And yes, we will get into that. I don't know. Costco's on the road. I think Costco's calling some wrestling. But it'll be fun tonight, no doubt. We'll get into that game. Let me get some more comments. Mikey Six chiming in. Q, did you see that the number went up on the Eagles? I have no idea why all of a sudden it bumped up to 5.5. Probably because the Eagles are going to smash the 49ers. The Eagles, I was reading this stat. They always go into the postseason healthy. Seriously. They always go into the postseason healthy. It's probably one of the reasons, you're getting all these guys back. The Packers weren't going to be much of a threat. The 49ers, because it's a veteran team, I thought maybe would pose a little bit of a threat. And they're trying to get some players back, but this game might be tailor-made for the Philadelphia Eagles. It's going to be something if this team is up. If the Eagles are up 13-3, 6 minutes into the game, the 49ers are in trouble. 6-7 minutes in. Quick pick six, turnover by Purdy, CMC fumble, short field, bang, bang. Saquon runs it up to gut. They're going to be in trouble. I want to believe in the 49ers this weekend. I do. I really do. I do. But the more I step back and really look at this game objectively, like, who's going to be Seattle at home? I look at Seattle, and if the Eagles had to go on the road in the NFC Championship, I know what you guys are going to say right now. Well, Sam Darnold's going to break your heart, Q. Sam Darnold's going to revert back to the pumpkin, the real quarterback that he is. I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the case. I trust that defense to slow down the Eagles' offense. The Rams, I don't like what I've seen from the Rams over the last month of the season. Green Bay, not a threat. The Bears, young team. Carolina, no thank you. Then you got the 49ers. Like, I'm almost starting to come to grips, as sickening as it is, as annoying as it is, that the friggin' Eagles are coming out of the NFC again. And it bugs the hell out of me. It does. It bugs the hell out of me. Like, give me a team that's going to beat them. So, yeah, the line blew up because you see where the money's going. I need Seattle to do something. I don't know if I can trust the 49ers this weekend. And that bothers me. That bothers me big time. Been here in Green Bay, could possibly make a coaching move. Oh, you heard it on the show. We've talked about it for about a month now. That would be insane, in my opinion. However, LaFleur would be candidate number one for 30 teams. No, he wouldn't. It's still Harbaugh. Stop. It's still Harbaugh. What the hell is LaFleur won? Stop. Stop. Do you guys follow friggin' football? Harbaugh is the most sought after coach right now. It is not even up to debate. It's not. Matt LaFleur, he's a good head coach. The Packers might be foolish to move on from him if they lose. But again, they're leaking oil coming into this game. They're leaking oil this weekend. Yeah, LaFleur's younger. He's 46. He's been around the block. He's kind of paved his way. We know about his mind. We know about his skill set. Okay, I get it. Guys kind of bounced around all over the place, right? Offensive mind, offensive coordinator, works with quarterbacks. You stick him in Baltimore, maybe with Lamar Jackson. But there's no debate. There's no argument. 1,000 NFL people will tell you out of 1,000, Harbaugh is candidate number one. It's just not even up for debate. Stefanski's right there. Kingsbury's right there. And we'll see what happens with the Packers and LaFleur. I would not discount if they get rolled over. There's already been some talk over the last several years that he just can't win the big game. He just can't. He's taken, the Packers are a talented team, but let's be fair. A couple years ago, Rodgers' last couple seasons with them, you kind of knew the disconnect. I go back to some of those playoff games where Matt LaFleur took the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands. Third, fourth down against Chicago. But this is a guy that's won a lot of football games. But he also came out like gangbusters his first 3 seasons in the NFL, 13-3, 13-3, 13-4. But then he faded. He bounced back last year, and now they're 9-7-1. Now, you can't get on me and sit there and say, well, Jordan Love was hurt. Well, guess what? Lamar Jackson was hurt. Well, guess what? Stefanski went through 4 different quarterbacks. LaFleur is a good head coach. He's a good head coach. But I want to see what the hell is going to happen this weekend. Because we talked about some of these games and handicapping some of these games. This is a bad matchup. And Jordan Love's a hit away. Jordan Love's been dealing with concussions and he's been banged up as well. Willis is banged up. God forbid if Jordan Love gets knocked out of this game, Green Bay's done. They are absolutely cooked. They are done. They're not going to beat the Bears on the road. And I'm surprised they're laying almost 2 points. No movement in the Bills line, and the Eagles line is ballooned from 3.5 to 5.5, which is telling you a lot. I'll bet any amount of money that Harbaugh's next stop is complete failure. But what's the definition of complete failure? What is that? What if he goes to Atlanta and they go 9-8 and win a playoff game? Is that a failure with Atlanta? Or you're talking like Belichickian with North Carolina? Giants need a fresh start head coach, someone that has been a successful coordinator. No. That's where you're totally 100% wrong. They don't. They don't need to go that route. I've gone that route. McAdoo, Shermer, Judge, Dayball, no. I don't want to deal with that crap anymore. I don't. And if Joe Shane does that, I'm done with this team. More done than I've ever been. I don't need that promising young coordinator. No, absolutely friggin' not. You need someone that brings credibility into the organization. Period. Those other jackass clowns that they hired they were in over their head. They won the day. They won the press conference. What the frig does that mean? Go look at Cohen's press conference and go look at Sirianni's press conference. Sirianni talking about fertilizer and letting flowers grow. And this friggin' clown's gone to 2 Super Bowls and he's won 1. Cohen could have been a number 1 seed with Jacksonville. So I don't want to hear this winning the press conference with these young coordinators that are, bringing juice and a spark. No. Save that shit somewhere else. Get me a guy that's won just to steady and calm the waters. I'm so tired of going the coordinator route with this nonsense. I don't care if it's a retread in Harbaugh. 5 years, turn it around. Then you want to go retire? Retire. Stop with that nonsense with the coordinators. That's so overrated. Sometimes you have to. 63, 60 years old is not young. Friggin' Pete Carroll just got a job with the Raiders. Now, it didn't work out because he bet on who? On Geno Smith. 63 is young. Another 10 years, you turn it around and you leave it in good hands. That's what I want. I'm so tired of just the retreading of these coaches. Pat Shurmur was a friggin' jackass. This guy sucked. He was a horrible head coach. Horrible. Benching Eli and throwing Geno Smith out there. Guy friggin' went 4-12, 5-11, and then the Giants hired him. For what? To go 5-11, 4-12, to have a no-show? They were a horrible, horrible football team. You had Mike Shula as a coordinator. You had James Belcher, remember him, as a defensive coordinator? Couldn't stop a friggin' nosebleed. Gettleman, the GM, with the Boston accent from Carolina. No, absolutely not. Friggin', they were 2-8, 2-9, 2-10. But let's bring in the hot coordinator. Please. Absurd. I don't want to deal with 3-win seasons anymore. I don't. 4-win seasons. I don't. Joe Judge, 6-10, the friggin' bully in the room. I mean, that was one of the biggest, one of the most shameful things I've ever seen in my life is when they decide, let's take a knee on third down in our own end because we don't want to run a play. That team and that coach was gutless. They didn't get any better with Daboll. Yeah, smoke and mirrors. Coach of the year. Okay. And then what? The message fell on deaf ears because Daboll thought, I'm going to make Daniel Jones like Josh Allen. Look, I get it. You're looking at some of these guys, Stefanski. Look what he did his last couple of seasons in Cleveland. Forget about the coach of the year that we talked about. He didn't win a lot of football games. Doesn't mean he's a bad head coach. Bad situation, bad organization, bad franchise. Maybe doesn't have the pieces. But I've already seen what Harbaugh can do. And I'm not going to sit here and say Harbaugh is the greatest head coach of the world. But I know what he can do. He can change a culture around. He can set the tone. That's what I want. It's not about being young. It's not. It's like the adage, well, hire me so I can get experience. No, come back when you have experience. That I agree with. That's all. You don't need, the NFL, you don't need to go young. Okay? No, I didn't want Stefanski. You're not friggin' listening, okay? Don't be a jackass on a Thursday, Vince, okay? Stop now. Stop. Don't be goofy, okay? I know sometimes you come with some weak-ass takes, but don't be goofy. I did not sit there. I said, if I had my choice, I'll go Harbaugh and or Stefanski. Now that Harbaugh's fired, he's my number one shot. He's my number one choice. Can I live with Stefanski? Yes. And don't lump me in with Orlovsky. That's just ridiculous. Now you're trending towards goofiness on a Thursday. You got to know better than that. Just stop. Tom and Summers Point. Q, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I don't know what the hell some of these clowns are talking about. I don't know either, man. I'm just trying to get through on a friggin' Thursday in peace, which I'm not even able to do that. You guys have such selective hearing. You have to have, you guys have selective hearing. How about Madman Sean? No stones with his San Fran. No chance of winning the game. It's going to have been a laid egg of epic they're going to lay an egg of epic proportions. It will have to be a laid egg. Oh, are you guys drinking today? Of epic proportions by Philly. So basically the Eagles, you think if the only way the Eagles lose this game, and Madman is a diehard 49ers fan, mind you. And now he's saying, I don't know if this is reverse mush, but now he's saying that the 49ers have no shot of winning this game. So you're saying the only way the 49ers win this game is if the Philadelphia Eagles shoot themselves in the foot. Okay? No, my assessment is 100%. You guys you're not getting it because you're not astute. That's really what it is. You're really not astute. So many guys are not astute football fans, and you're just not understanding it. And I can't force it down your throat. Eric says, well said, Rich. I appreciate that. I mean, someone's trying to get it on the show today, right? Ravens 76 chiming in. Mike McDaniel, offensive genius. I like him in Baltimore as our offensive coordinator. You're talking about, yeah, I got you. Mike McDaniel. I got you. I got you. Not the Doobie Brothers, right? Michael McDonald. Listen, all I'm saying is this. I don't have to worry about a guy like Harbaugh. A young coordinator, you can't, if you're the Giants, just bear with me for a minute. You guys still are not getting it, some of you. Like, I can't force feed it. I can't. Like, you're eating hamburger. I'm trying to feed you a nice steak. You're not understanding it. You've got a young quarterback. You have a good young quarterback that can be a franchise centerpiece. Bring in a veteran guy. You don't, why? Because someone's 40 years old? How the hell do I know if they're going to be able to work with this guy? Everyone said the same thing about McDaniel, and look what happened. But yet, you guys also forget Mike Rabel was a guy that everyone clowned when he was with Tennessee, and he gets fired, and now look what he's doing with New England. Like, seriously. And this guy's 50. So you're not going to tell me right now Rabel's not a good head coach? Oh, man, this guy flamed out with the Titans. He couldn't get it done. Now look what he's doing in New England. Now look what he's doing in New England. They could have arguably been the number 1 seed, and you got an MVP candidate in Drake May. Like, you guys are obsessed. Got to be young, got to be young. No, you need young players, but you don't need a 35-year-old Sean McVay. They don't fall out of the sky. You don't. You have no idea if it's going to pan out. Then, if it doesn't, because you got a young guy that's green, doesn't know how to handle the room or the media or the players or the roster, and then in 2-3 years, I'm sitting here again and we're having the same conversation. No, I'm not going that route anymore. I'm not. Bring in a guy that has credibility, that is respected. Whether it's a Harbaugh, fine. Kingsbury, outside the box thinking, but look at the first time around, it flamed out. Do you understand when you're a piss poor franchise like the Giants have been for 10 plus 15 years, you have to give the fan base something to cheer about. You have to give the fan base you don't need a young guy who's 35 years old. Why? Because you think he's going to be there for 30 years? It doesn't necessarily work out like that. Matt LaFleur, if he got fired, sure, you have that conversation. Yeah, absolutely. But again, the question is, well, how come it's not working out in Green Bay and he's got a young quarterback in Jordan Love? What makes you think it's going to work with the Giants and Jackson Dart? And I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't sit here and tell you that a Stefanski or Harbaugh is going to work out. But I know this team. I know this franchise. I'm pretty in tune with what the Giants are doing. And I've seen it. I've spoken to players, former and current, over the years. And the former ones will tell you it's a joke of a franchise. And they bleed blue. They'll tell you to a man, it's just they need to steady the waters. Yeah, the sexy Ben Johnson, Sean McVay, they're not falling out of the sky. They're not. And that's why I also believe this weekend is really going to be telling in the NFL, because if the Bills lose, McDermott might be out. If the Packers lose, we've already documented that. I don't think if the 49ers win, Sirianni's going to lose his job with Philly, but maybe the offensive coordinator is going to be out. So yeah, it's going to be very telling this weekend. But you can't sell me on anything other than what I've already discussed and what I've laid out for you. I'm sorry. You can't. You want to call me narrow-minded and closed-minded, so be it. I am tired of bringing in guys that have absolutely no idea how to build roster, command respect, bring back credibility, man the ship. All I've gotten are a bunch of pushovers and just soft-ass clowns. I don't want that anymore. I don't want that anymore. Why be disappointed if they don't get Harbaugh? Sure. Why be, giddy if they got a Stefanski or a Kingsbury? I'll go with that. I just don't want to miss. That's it. I don't want to miss. That's it. And I understand some of you guys, you kind of get tired of the recycling of head coaches. I've seen it, though, from a franchise that's been the model of consistency. I remember when the Giants went through the Hanleys, the Dan Reeves, and then the Fossils, and then they had Coughlin, and he turned it around, and then he was forced out. I'm talking to you guys of someone that's tired of it. I'll take my shot with a guy that's been around for 18, 20 years, who's won a Super Bowl, who's consistently winning. And I know there's not going to be nonsense. And I understand he's going to command respect. He's going to garner respect in the locker room. I have no idea about those reports of what transpired in Baltimore. You got the rat ship saying one thing. You got Schefter saying something. You got Rappaport saying something. You got both beat guys playing on their friggin' phones, disputing others' reports. I have no idea. I just know one thing. He was respected. Maybe some of the players liked him. Some didn't. Some didn't want to see him go. You saw Marlon Humphrey's comments. Some maybe wanted him to go. But again, that's what happens when you have a bad loss. You have a disconnect in the locker room, and the coach is about to get fired. Everyone comes out of the woodwork, and they want to tap dance on your grave. And at this point, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of the Pat Shurmurs, the McAdoos, the judges. It's just stop. Stop, stop, stop. Stop with the nonsense. Like, seriously. Sergeant Delaware Q, checking out some of the comments today. You're keeping these guys in line. I'm actually shocked. I can't believe some guys have no football knowledge. Listen, it's not about having the football knowledge. It's knowing my team and my franchise, and I get it. After a while, it gets annoying. I don't give a shit anymore about newbies and the hot commodity. There's no Ben Johnson. There's no McVay. And if that's me being a little too old school and just saying, all right, over the next 3-4 years, if I'm winning 9-10 games and making the playoffs, if that's me being satisfied after dealing with how many losses in a decade, then so be it. Then maybe I'm the bad guy. I don't know. Dolphins have the same problem. Newbies get a veteran coach. You have to. Why do you think they brought in Aikman? Right? Why do you think they brought in Aikman? They had to bring him in. They needed that outside voice. They had to. Damn Q is angry today, right, man? Who peed in his cup of fresh roast? That's a good. Right there, 20% off. You'll see the show notes. 20% off. That's a good plug, Vince. That's a very good plug. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Not angry. I am tired. I'm tired of watching a franchise be a joke. I'm tired of losing football. I mean, come on. Some of you guys are spoiled. Eagles fans, 49ers fans. You know, you guys have had success. Ravens fans, Steelers fans. Motto of consistency. What do I have to show for? Come on. Yeah, I'm not happy with that comment, by the way, Vince. I'm not. Because I can't stand Orlovsky. I can't stand him. When they have the three-headed monster in the booth, I mean, that's just not good. Luca Brazzi, a little spicy. A little. Eric, appreciate you, brother. Appreciate the comments. Thank you. I'm glad you're enjoying it. What do we got here? So basically, you're saying you're happy with Harbaugh turning the Giants into a 9-8 team for the next 5 years. No. Again, you guys want to take every little word and twist it around. I want consistency. I want to see the growth. In the NFL, the Giants still have pieces missing. They still need to clean up the defense, the secondary. They need linebackers. They probably have to get another pass rusher. They need another wide receiver. But we know you can turn it around. If I was winning 10 games, see, you're saying 9-8. No. If I'm winning 10 a year and getting to the playoffs, yeah. After what I've dealt with, I mean, what are you, friggin' delusional? I mean, seriously, what are you smoking today with the nonsense? Honestly, like, seriously, I hate to do it, but you got to get checked. Do you know how bad the Giants have been over the last 15 years? And I don't want to talk an hour and a half, 2 hours on the Giants, but do you know how bad this franchise has been? So, yeah, 9 wins, 10 wins. Holy shit, call me spoiled. Yeah. Instead of 3-13 and getting blown out every single solitary game. I mean, let's be honest. Let's be transparent. I don't want 5-12, 6-10, 4-13. These games were not even competitive. They're not even competitive. Every year for the past 10 years, I've come on the air and said their season's over by October. And we all laughed. But in reality, it is. Cleveland does the same thing. The Jets say the same thing. The Titans haven't really said too much. The Raiders have been a joke. You guys get so sucked into the hot commodity, and more times than not, the hot commodity does not pan out. Sometimes you do have to play it a little safe, a little, a little safe. Pats right now, listen, I'll tell you, they're going to be a dangerous team. They're going to be a dangerous team. And you also got to remember something, too. You got a young quarterback in Drake May. You got a very good head coach. Now, is there pressure on the Patriots to make a deep run into the playoffs? I think they're playing with house money. Maybe the Patriots are kind of last year's Washington Commanders. They arrived a little early. Now, do I believe the Chargers can go on the road and beat New England? I just think pound for pound, New England's the better team. Bringing the mentality of a 70-year-old sitting on the stoop, remembering what worked in the 80s. Not necessarily, because you have to have the hot commodity. So a 45-year-old, or a 40-year-old head coach. So LaFleur is 46. Harbaugh is 63 and a young 63. So we're gonna mock over a 15-year difference here. And this is on the guys that he gets fired and he's available, and if the Giants want him. It's not about the mentality. I know football. I've covered it. I know what I'm talking about here. And you guys don't have to agree with me. There's not all these hot candidates just falling out of the sky. If the Packers go on a deep run, then guess what? Matt LaFleur is going to have a contract extension. He's going to get signed. He's going to get signed. Now, we can bring it up that in the offseason, policy decided we're not going to give him a contract extension. Will he be a hot name out there? Yes. But you're sitting there saying, give me the 46-year-old that's had a little bit of success as opposed to the 60-year-old that's won a Super Bowl and had a model of success. That doesn't make sense. So we're going to have to agree to disagree. We're going to have to agree to disagree and kind of just move on from that. It's going to be fascinating to see exactly what's going to happen this weekend. It really is. I'll tell you this. I had a conversation with my buddy. He's up in Buffalo. He does radio in Buffalo. And he believes, this is just from him. I'm just going by what he was telling me. He thinks this is a very bad matchup for the Buffalo Bills. Jacksonville's a hot team. They're rolling a little bit. Their quarterback's playing very good football. He also believes that a lot of pressure is going to fall on Josh Allen, which we've talked about the other day. But I asked him, listen, what is the likelihood that McDermott, if the Buffalo Bills no-show, and, what I guess my question was, if they can't get through Jacksonville knowing there's no Baltimore, no Cincinnati, no Kansas City, i.e. no Burrow, no Jackson, no Mahomes, what's the likelihood that McDermott gets fired? And he said, look, you got to look at the relationship that he has with Josh Allen, which has a lot of clout within the organization, which I wasn't fully aware of, to be quite honest. But here's a guy that went to, he started with the Eagles. Then remember, he was at DC with Carolina, and then he took over. And now remember, hot commodity, right? Took the Panthers to the Super Bowl as a DC under, who was the head coach? Rivera. And then got the job with the Bills. But now it's going on almost a decade. It's going on almost a decade, almost 10 years that Sean McDermott has been coach of the Buffalo Bills. Now, if you're a Bills fan, this was a 12-5 team, second in the AFC East. They ran off a bunch of wins late. They had the trip up against the Eagles. But other than that, they closed out the season win of 6 of 7. They got a little momentum. This is a huge game for Josh Allen. I'm not going to sit here and say a legacy game, but I also think this could be a referendum on the career of Sean McDermott. Now, my buddy thinks if they lose, he's not going to get fired because of the level of consistency that he's brought. And I guess you can say the growth of Josh Allen. But that's a name. That's a name to watch. And that's just what he is saying. And I think McDermott might be that shocking firing if they really get steamrolled by Jacksonville. I really believe it. What do we got here? Harbaugh going to Miami, Stefanski or McDaniel to the Giants. So now I mentioned Harbaugh, Ross to connection, why they fired me. So let me ask you guys this. Do you believe that the Miami Dolphins fired McDaniel? Well, let me rephrase this. Do you believe the Dolphins fired McDaniel because they already were eyeing up John Harbaugh? Like show of hands. Like comment in. You're talking 24 to 48 hours. And oh, by the way, see you, Mike McDaniel. And you're kind of Miami Vice, 83-ish, 84-ish, 85-ish. Well, it started 84, but 85-ish kind of looking character. Vince says, welcome, Eric, to the wildest 2 hours of sports talk on the interweb. I never said interweb. It's audio. We're on the Odyssey app. We're on YouTube. We're on Kicks. We're on Rumble. We're on X. We're on YouTube. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Facebook. We're on SR 1029 FM The Game. We're on Coastal Sports Digital Network. There's no interweb. Oh, my goodness. If Tomlin gets fired, I can see him with the Giants. I want no parts of Mike Tomlin. I can't. I don't want Mike Tomlin. I don't. Mike Tomlin, if they lose, Mike Tomlin, I think the opportunity for us to have this conversation was if they lost to Baltimore. But now you're kind of playing with house money. Like everyone's going to throw in, oh, Mike Tomlin never had a losing season. Look at all the consistency, blah, 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 blah. Mike Tomlin also, has been around a long time, just like Harbaugh. Shelf life, 17, 18 years, won very early, but the consistency of veteran head coach. I am not a big Mike Tomlin fan. I've never been a very big Mike Tomlin fan. The guy's a good coach. I don't think he's a great coach. I don't think he's a fit in New York, to be quite honest with you. I don't. And I think if he were to step aside and or get fired, he's either going to take a year off or he's going to go to the booth. Harbaugh, to me, is that guy that lives, breathes, and eats football. I don't believe that's really Tomlin. I'm not saying he's not passionate about the sport. Harbaugh just strikes me as it's 24/7, man. I'm fired up. Next scenario, next location, next franchise, let's roll with it. That's how I look at a guy like Harbaugh. Watching little bro Dan break down tape. You are such a ball breaker on the Bills defense. And if we protect Trevor, could get ugly this weekend for the Bills. And McDermott might be the guy you want next for New York, huh? No. Your most important asset is Jackson Dart. Harbaugh is the absolute least person you want to develop him. You are smoking and joking with us. It must be April 1st. I don't smoke and I don't joke. That's number one. Number two, yes, he is, but that's why you also bring in the right coordinator. I mean, you build a company, you can't run it on your own. You got to bring in guys you trust. You bring in a Kingsbury, you bring in a McDaniel, you bring in one of those offensive guys. If it flames out for some of these guys, madman, there's not 100% written in stone that some of these head coaches that fizzle are going to get another head coaching job available, is my point. Maybe they might have to go back as an offensive coordinator. Kingsbury flamed out, had to go back to OC. Now he's getting a look. That's all I'm saying. That's all. Work with me a little bit. Meet me. Don't be like friggin' one way. Don't be, some of you guys are Passyunk Avenue in Philly. Yeah, you are. Some of you guys are Passyunk Avenue. You're just one way. That's it. There's no U-turn. You're going the wrong way. So I get and I appreciate and I hear what you're saying. I like Flores. I had this argument with my buddy the other day. He's like, "Oh, Flores did a job." Al Davis sued the NFL every other Sunday. I like Brian Flores. He should get a crack at a head coaching job. He should. He's earned that. He's a very good defensive coordinator. Now, can I bring him in as coordinator? Yeah, I'll run with him. I don't want the Todd Bowles. I don't want the Raheem Morris. Retread. All right, 16 the books on a Thursday edition of On Cue, 5 o'clock hour. Rich Quinones here, powered by our good friends over at, for those that think I put a little Irish coffee today. I haven't. Look. I don't want to get any on the Mac. Straight black. It's what we do. Fresh roasted coffee, 20% off. Get ready with tea. And I haven't had a layup for those guys that are asking if I've had a layup. No, I don't drink that stuff. You know that. Did I have a bourbon? No, I don't drink any of that stuff on the air. I don't drink the layup. We just did the golf outing with the layup. That's all. But it's not my, my cup of tea, my cup of fresh roasted. Played against sports, two great locations, Deptford and Mount Laurel. Man, all these comments coming in. Joe D in South Philly said Passyunk Q. I'm laughing out loud. Yeah, one way. Isn't it Passyunk Avenue is one way? Right down Broad, right? South Street. Played against sports, two locations, 1450 Columbus Ridge Road in Deptford and Mount Laurel. Quick timeout. We'll reset the table. We'll come back on the other side. Yes, a little more NFL. Yes, we'll get into college football. We'll get your thoughts, predictions. We'll lay it out for you. And how about a little trade in the NBA? I know. I'm not allowed to talk NBA on my own show. You guys made that clear. I'm not allowed to talk NBA. We'll talk a little NBA a little later on in the show. You've got the CFP, as Vince likes to say, college football playoffs. You got my Miami Hurricanes. Here we go. Miami's laying 3. By the way, did I get any credit? Because you guys are so easy to pick out all the misses. Did I get any credit when I came on the air with Costco and I basically said outright, grab Miami? I don't recall anyone when I sat there and said grab Miami over Texas A&M, grab Miami over Ohio State. Didn't hear anything, but you guys are very quick to point out the misses, kind of like the GMs of the New York Football Giants. I do like the Hurricanes tonight. It's going to be a hell of a game. And how about Lane Kiffin? My God, this guy is such a friggin' rat. He is such a rat. I got some comments on Kiffin too, and I do want to get your thoughts on this because we'll talk a little bit about it on the other side with the transfer portal. I put up some ridiculous numbers I want to share with you guys, but man, what a rat. Unbelievable. All right, quick timeout. We'll come back on the other side. I promise I will get to all your comments, as we like to say. 16 of books, 5 o'clock. Yeah, we'll take you up to 6 o'clock on a Thursday. Why not? You guys are engaged. Let's keep it rolling. Be back in 30. All right, 5 o'clock on the East Coast. We'll take you up to 6 o'clock on this Thursday edition on Q. Rich Quinones here. As always, don't forget, get social. Let me turn that mic off. Get social with me on social media. I hear the echo from the AUDACY app. Get social with me on X and IG at Rich Q on Q, TikTok, Rich Q on the mic. We're on Kicks, Rumble, the YouTube channel, respectively. For the new guys chiming in, if you like the content, the show, comment, subscribe to the channel. Appreciate the support. You guys are fantastic. Of course, for the original Q crew breaking my balls on a Thursday, let's get back to some of your comments as well. I think the Bills beat the Jags. Jags have run out their experience in the playoffs. Jacksonville's they're a tough out, Eric. I'm not going to dismiss Jacksonville. Sure, we went through this yesterday. The Bills, that's a playoff veteran team, but sometimes you also run into a little buzzsaw. I'm going to set the scenario for you guys. Tell me what you think on this. The Lions were scoring at will last year. Jared Goff was in the MVP conversation. And then Washington goes into Detroit and they put up 45. If I come on the air Monday, is it going to surprise me if Jacksonville beats the Bills 38-13, 38-20? It won't. That's how good Jacksonville is playing. You can run on Buffalo. That worries me, which means now, you're down 13-0, even with Josh Allen. McDermott scares me. He gets a little conservative. You go away from the ground game. You put more pressure on Josh Allen, which puts strain on that passing attack, which plays right into the favor of that Jacksonville defense. That won't be a shocking outcome. It won't. The shocking outcome this weekend, Carolina, that to me is your biggest shocking outcome. And forget about the points, but let's just call it for what it is. If the Rams go on the road and lose to Carolina, is that more about the Rams or more about Carolina? Packers going on the road beating Chicago, that's an NFC North. There's familiarity. We always talk about meeting a team 3 times during a season. There's familiarity between those franchises. They know each other like the back of their hand. Now, they split 2 contests this season. Now, third time's a charm. So who do you give the edge to? I'm worried if I'm a Packers fan. I'm worried that Jordan Love is a hit away from getting knocked out again. Then the 49ers against the Eagles, 5.5, not going to shock me. Chargers and the Pats, not going to shock me. The Texans going on the road and losing to the Steelers, that would surprise me a little bit. That would definitely surprise me a little bit. Yes, the Finns fired McDaniel for Harbaugh. Well, we agree again on one thing, do we not, on a Thursday, Vince? By the way, Vince, how do you feel your Steelers are going to do this weekend? Let's see if Finns succeed this time with Harbaugh. Got to hire a GM too. That's the other thing. All these changes in Washington. How about this? Robbie Boy chimes in. We know he's a big-time Colts fan. Q, did you see that the Colts GM believes that Daniel Jones is near a long-term deal? Yeah, you got to be careful. You're getting him coming off that injury. You got to be very careful with Daniel Jones. And, listen, I never thought he was a very good quarterback with the Giants, but hold on. There are reports that 7 teams will contact his agent immediately after finding only 6 jobs are open. Way to frig him in. Tomlin and Harmlin are the same thing. Vinny, check Q's coffee. Man, he's on something. No. I'm not. I'm just telling you who I would prefer. That's all. That's all. I'm just telling you who I would prefer. There's nothing in this coffee except fresh roasted, which the first purchase is on me, 20% off. Check out the show notes. That should be in the link of the YouTube channel. Or as Vince says, the webcast. Do you remember what was it, CompuServe? You couldn't get online if somebody was using the house phone, and you would get that annoying coming across. Early days of the intranet. How about this? Hey, Vince, take it easy on the new guys chiming in, okay? Take it easy. Vince attacking some of the listeners right now. Can't come in here talking down on my jabs. By the way, just so Eric knows, Eric, Vince was a Steeler fan. Diehard Steelers fan. Then something happened in the water in Pittsburgh, and all of a sudden he became a Jacksonville fan. So we sit there and say that's a no-no. Like, you stick with your team. 15 yards, second flag, ejection from the game. So watch it, buddy. If the Dolphins don't get Harbaugh, I would like Kingsbury. That's another name out there. That's another name. Did you guys see that Trae Young got traded? That is a monster deal. Early, how about this? Early monster deal. Yeah, we can talk a little NBA, read the room. Early monster deal. Trae Young, one of the most overrated friggin' players in the NBA, traded for a bag of balls to the Wizards for Kisbert and McCullen. Can't stand Trae Young. Get him out of Atlanta. Now all of a sudden you go to a horrible team. You guys want to talk NBA? Blah, blah, blah. Go to commercial break. Whoa. Man. What's, don't be so angry right there. Robert chimes in, Packers fan. Q, definitely scared of this game. I think they got to figure out a way to run the football, and they have to force some turnovers. If Williams sits there back in the pocket, it's going to be a long day for the Packers. Yeah. Jose and Burco chimes in. ¿Qué pasa contigo, Q? What's up, Jose? What's your thought on tonight's game? I'm grabbing Miami and the points. I do like the Hurricanes. I do. I like Miami tonight. I think it'll be a high scoring game. I don't think it's going to be as low as some of these guys have been kind of projecting. I mean, the total is 52.5. This is going to be a good game, a fun game. What's that? 7:30? 7:30 kickoff, right? CFP, listen, it aside from Old Miss routing Tulane, the Ducks quacking all over poor JMU. Miami showed you a little something. They played very good defense against Texas A&M, held them to 3, shut down their attack, and then they held Ohio State to 14 points. Now, to me, that was a very impressive performance. Now, Indiana beating Alabama and Mendoza doing Mendoza, that was also impressive. Old Miss outscoring Georgia. The one thing about Old Miss, they score in bunches, man. I mean, they can move the football, and I think Miami's got to stack the box. They got to be a little honest with their defense. They cannot get beat over the top. This quarterback is really good from Ole Miss. He is really good. This kid is your dual threat quarterback. This Trinidad Chambliss, he's good. He's really good. Now, to Vince's point, do you watch a kid like this, and if he goes out and really balls out and has 350 total yards, and they put up, I don't know, 35 points tonight, and they beat Miami by 17, 35-13, 35-18 in advance, how much does his stock go up? Because I am not, a lot of you guys have talked about Mendoza and the kid Moore, and I think Chambliss, from what I was reading, was kind of lobbying for another year of eligibility. But what if his stock goes up like big time and he has that star performance? What do you do? Which kind of leads me into the other conversation about these, transfer portal. Jose chimes back in, yeah, but Q, be honest, no one's been able to block Miami's front. I agree. But you haven't seen a quarterback like this. That's the difference. So everyone was kind of pushing back with Lane Kiffin. So again, I'll ask you guys. I think what Lane Kiffin did was Bush League. I really do. You get up and you bolt, and oh, by the way, look what's going on with Ole Miss right now. He looks like a jackass, right? I mean, he left that university high and dry. However, the flip side, which I hate to hedge like this, especially doing sports talk, there are 2,000 names, athletes that were dropped in the transfer portal. We get on these coaches for picking up and leaving, but the kids can do it. And the back and forth with Clark and Jimbo Fisher, and okay, do I believe it's a bad look by Lane Kiffin, especially knowing how well Ole Miss is playing and they have an opportunity to win it all, to win the national championship? Yeah, I do. I do. So Miami takes on Ole Miss tonight, and the Rebels are going to be without 2 assistants because they've been working with both programs, right? So you think about George McDonald, the wide receivers coach, Joe Cox, the tight end coach. Now you fast forward, and it's all about changing the rules, right? And that's, and I believe what Fisher is saying, he truly believes it, and I think it merits a conversation, because now all of a sudden you're not allowing these guys to travel. And then you got the offensive coordinator, Charlie Weiss Jr., the running back coach, Kevin Smith. Both have already inked deals with LSU. I mean, I think we've opened up Pandora's box. You can't change the rules of the game in the middle of the game. You guys are playing on the blacktop, and all of a sudden, no blood, no foul. And now all of a sudden you want to start calling foul and everything. You can't do it like that. Or game point, you want the cheapy foul. You can't just start changing the rules. You can't. And I'm not, I think what Kiffin did was Bush League. I really do. Got up and left. Here we go. Oh, and by the way, you better follow me now. Right? Trey requests to go to Washington. Biggest loser move ever. Hold on. I thought we were not talking NBA. I thought we were not doing it. And yet you guys come back and you want to talk NBA with me. I can't stand Trae Young. He's so friggin' overrated. He is so overrated. And Washington stinks. Now, they're so bad, they're going to have a pretty high draft pick. So overrated. Chino, what's going on, brother? How are you, my friend? You got to be excited about these hardball rumors. All right, 5:15. A lot more comments coming up. We're going to rip through them as well. We'll get to the little college football, a lot more NFL comments. Yes, we can talk NBA if you want. We'll be back in about 30 plus. Keep it locked in, a Thursday edition of On Cue. All right, 17 past 5 o'clock hour. Welcome back, everyone. We'll take you up to 6 o'clock straight up. Thursday edition of On Cue coming at you live on SR 1029 FM, the game, Coastal Sports Digital Network, part of the AUDACY app. Brian in West Palm chimes in. Q, I'm not shocked that McDaniel got fired, but where do you think they're going to go as far as GM? It's a good question. That's a real. We kind of went through the GM candidates yesterday, right? There's not the hot candidate, just like some of these young guys that you look. I'm sorry, Jesse Minter, the kid, the coordinator with the Packers. I'll still take a Stefanski or a Harbaugh over these guys. Just because you're young, it doesn't always. It doesn't. You can be green. And yes, the flip side is, hey, you can be a McVay. You can be a Ben Johnson. I understand all that. And maybe it bites me in the ass, this love affair for a guy like John Harbaugh going forward. But I think the Miami Dolphins might be a serious player here. Ross has a lot of money. You're talking about a billionaire. You're talking about Florida, Miami, South Beach, the weather. I think it's appealing. Now, I also believe that now follow with me. Are the Miami Dolphins in a hurry to hire a GM? Just now follow me for a second. They fired Chris Greer. Okay? He was fired. They had that disappointing season. They 7-10. They didn't. They got out to a bad start. They got rid of him in October. They have Champ Kelly in there as the interim GM. So now you've had a bunch of these in person, or they're going to have a couple of these interviews. Kelly, I was looking up the Chargers assistant GM. The name escapes me. Josh Williams, I mentioned him yesterday, the 49ers director of, I think, football ops. Chad Alexander, that's the Chargers assistant GM. With Harbaugh being fired now and Ross having all this money and McDaniel now fired, I'm just throwing it out there. Is it possible that Ross turns around and the carrot that he dangles in front of Harbaugh is you're running the show. You are, we want to call it, the president of football operations, de facto GM, and you are the head coach. What do you want? What do you want? You want $20 million a year? Because that's probably what Harbaugh is going to want. Sean Payton makes $18 million a year. Is Sean Payton a better head coach than John Harbaugh? I mean, I'll let you guys answer that. I'll let you answer that because Sean Payton signed a 5-year deal. It's around $18 million. He's one of the NFL's highest paid coaches. Now, young quarterback, number 1 seed. It's worked out after the Russell Wilson experiment and the Hackett experiment blew up in their face. Harbaugh is going to want $20 million. Ross, Miami Dolphins can pay him $20 million. They can pay him $20 million. That's making a statement. And Sean Payton came in with some baggage, did he not? Talking about a head coach, they're paying close to $90 million. Now, you have an ego and you want full control. You can get it in Miami. I don't know if you can get it in New York. That's all I'm saying. Requesting to go to the Wizards is the craziest thing ever. More NBA talk. Just say you want money and never want to play additional games in April, May, and June. No, that's true. That is true. He's absolutely being the drug test probation thing they do. He has to be getting extremely high. We talking about Mir, Trae Young. I was saying Chambliss has Kyler Murray type quickness and speed. I like this kid. I do. I think Murray was a reach, though, right? I really do. Indy Jack chimes in. Q, do you think Jones is going to be long-term answer? What are they going to do with Anthony Richardson? Which is another reach, Anthony Richardson. A handful of games in college. Also, don't remember, too, a guy like McDaniel that got fired, with the Eagles, if the Eagles flame out and the offense goes south, you're going to get rid of Kevin Patullo. Do you bring in Mike McDaniel? Do you go out and bring in a guy like Kingsbury? That's also something. And that's another coordinator, mind you, for Jalen Hurts. Rappaport's tweeting out that the Lions have reached out to McDaniel about their vacant offensive coordinator position. See? So this is what happens. Now follow me. Sometimes these coaches, they last a couple of seasons in the NFL as a head coach. They go from coordinator to head coach. It flames out. Now they go back. They have to go down to go back up. Kingsbury, right? Up, down, back up. McDaniel, same thing. Stefanski might have to take a coordinator job and rebuild after the last couple of years in Cleveland. Harbaugh doesn't have to do that, is kind of my whole point. You already know what you're getting. Murray was definitely a reach. Murray got drafted first round despite being 6 foot, if that. Chambliss won chips at lower levels. He's produced wherever he stepped on the field. If he plays well and has a good combine, he can definitely be a first round. But he's not going to go. Let me ask you a question. If he's lights out, so you guys all believe that right now, out of all these potential quarterbacks, and this is not a quarterback heavy draft. It's a quarterback needy draft, but it's not a quarterback heavy draft. So we know the two that stand out: Fernando Mendoza, Dante Moore. Now you bring in, you throw Chambliss into the mix. Okay. Is Mendoza, do you look at Mendoza and say right now he is pro ready? Or do you look at Moore and say he's pro ready with more upside, but Mendoza comes with a little more of the body of work and he won the Heisman? Like, how much cachet are we putting in Heisman? Because a lot of times some of these Heisman quarterbacks in the past haven't always panned out. There are teams in the NFL that need quarterbacks. We know that. Vegas needs a quarterback. Jets need a quarterback. I think Arizona might run it back with Brissett. Titans aren't drafting a quarterback. Giants aren't drafting a quarterback. Cleveland, your guess is as good as mine. Washington doesn't need a quarterback. Are the Saints? Do the Saints believe in this kid, who I'm going to butcher his last name? Tyler Show. Kansas City doesn't need a quarterback. They need a backup. Cincinnati doesn't. Miami's going to need a quarterback. Dallas doesn't. So you got 2-3. So to me, it seems it's going to be the Raiders and the Jets 1-2, whether it's going to be Mendoza Moore. What happens if this kid goes out and plays lights out tonight? Does his stock rise, right? Does his stock rise? And you see this crap, we read the room and he gets mad at us. Stop it. Marisol Boy chiming in for the first time. Appreciate you, brother. Jets. All right. You got a Jet fan on the board. How about that in the chat on a Thursday edition of On Cue? Matt's a Jet fan. Kevin's a Jet fan. Jarrett's a Jet fan. Now we got Marisol Boys 5466 chiming in. Wonder who he wants the Jets to draft at number 2. We can start win-win this guy, man. We follow the winding trail. He weaves and he lashes out at us. Typical boomer activity. I guess we just grin and bear it like we did. Granddad grabs the wager. Yeah, let me tell you something. You're lucky. This old man right here. You don't want to get woodshed by me. You don't. And by the way, you have a lot of nerve. Vince, a.k.a. New Headphones Hit This, a.k.a. Heat 12 Man, a.k.a. Heisman, a.k.a. Steeler Nation, a.k.a. Duval, also known as now Ball Breaker Vince. You have a lot of gumption to chime in on the show, okay? To chime in and try to set me correct when you guys decide to set the friggin' guidelines for my show, which I'm on the air every day, sometimes 7 days a week, plus a gambling show, plus the boxing show, plus the hoop show, plus radio spots during the week. And you're going to tell me when I can talk certain sports, and you think I'm not going to push back? If Angel was on right now, he'd probably want to talk about NASCAR. Now, that's not reading the room. I'm not going to back the bus over on Angel. I'm not. He's doing God's work right now. But I'm just saying, if I want to talk NBA and Trae Young, we're going to talk about Trae Young and who won the trade. Oh, how about this? Joey with the salad. I don't know why. Joey, you got to fix that handle. You have to. Joey be the salad? Joey buy the salad? You got to. What happened to Joey B? It bothers me. Back on the mainland, Q, from Maui back to Colorado, snow, Harbaugh to Giants, got to happen. But South Florida, probably better late career choice for Harbaugh, lower taxes. What's it, no income or state tax, right? Who doesn't love Florida, right? Anthony, my man, Pots and Pans, sub to the channel. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. Thank you. That means a great deal. Thank you. We'll bump you to the front of the line, my friend. Chino. Oh, wouldn't Chino says, wouldn't Miami begin a complete rebuild? If so, would Harbaugh be interested in undergoing such a process? I think Harbaugh is going to want power. Harbaugh wants to Parcells, Belichick treatment. That's all. That's all. I'm telling you right now, he wants that. I want power. You know, Chip Kelly wanted the power. It didn't pan out. And Andy Reid wore too many hats. You know, it just didn't pan out. Now it's worked out in Kansas City. Some guys, they're driven by ego. And I think my only worry, Harbaugh is all right, let me say it like this. There's always the guy you work with, right? That is kind of that, I'm not going to say bully, but, you know, he walks in the room. He kind of controls the meetings. You know, he's buddy with the boss. He knows exactly what he's talking about, but maybe he comes off a little too strong. He's an alpha male. Then under him is the supervisor. And the supervisor's kind of, I got to kiss this guy's ass. I got to come in early. I got to clock in. I got to let them see that I'm doing work, even though I don't really know what the hell I'm doing with my job. Now, the manager sees that, and all of a sudden he's like, you know what? I'm stripping this guy of his duties. I don't need this guy. I'll handle it. Or to even give you a better analogy, Harbaugh is the supervisor, and then Joe Shane is the manager. And Joe Shane's been clueless. He's buddy buddy with the VP. He's buddy buddy with the boss. He's dating the woman that's running HR. He's set. He's good. He's got his bennies. He's got his 401. Let's go. Match me at 10%. I can take any day off. Harbaugh's the grinder. Coming in early, working 10, 12 hours. He's got the attitude, the chip on his shoulder. He's productive. He's been there. Consistency. Never calls out sick. Joe Shane is a soft one. Joe Shane is a soft manager. And Harbaugh's like, I want this guy's job. What the hell are you paying this guy for? That's my concern. And I think and with the Giants, that's a concern because Joe Shane to me is not a good GM. Joe Shane gets a pass. You know why? Because they drafted Carter and Jackson Dart and Scatterbill. And Tracy's been playing well. And Theo Johnson's been playing well. But Joe Shane was also the guy that said, well, hold on a second. You know, Daniel Jones, Brian Daboll, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? I'm not a fan of Joe Shane. And I think you got alpha. And when you have an alpha male and you got more of a submissive kind of guy or submissive kind of person, the alpha male, just like in the jungle, they want to take over. They want to take over. And look at some of the guys that he let go or walk. You know, forget about the Barkley thing, but McKinney, Love. I mean, some of these guys. So I can't for the life of me. I've said this and I'll never backtrack from this. General managers are tied to the hip with the guy they bring in. And it was a package deal. It was Brian Daboll and Joe Shane. So how in the world do you get rid of a guy in Brian Daboll, which I was not a fan of? I knew his time had to come, but yet you fire Daboll and under Joe Shane's guidance or lack thereof, you're 22-45-1, and this clown still has a job. So there's got to be more within the inner workings, you know, from a personnel standpoint, again, in that building. And probably the most brutal indictment that's backfired big time that Giant fans will never forgive Joe Shane. You extend Daniel Jones, blew up in your face, and you franchise tag Saquon Barkley. That's probably been the most brutal indictment on Joe Shane. And you also let some of these guys walk, right? Julian Love, Leonard Williams. You can't gloss over that. You can't. You just can't. Those are huge. McKinney, huge losses. You know, the Williams trade made sense at the time, and you get a little decent return for a veteran defender. But Love was a young player, homegrown talent. You know, you could have kept him around for 10, 15 years. Like, these are mistakes that I feel the manager, you know, doesn't know. You know, he's cooking the books. He doesn't handle payroll properly. He doesn't know how to schedule. He's always leaving the cupboard bare. He's not helping out some of these employees, or he's turning a blind eye. He's reading a book all day. That's Joe Shane. That's Joe Shane. Harbaugh comes in, sticks his chest out, throws his resume on the table, shows his Super Bowl ring, and Joe Shane's going to back up. That's the problem. That's the problem I have. That's the one fear I have. And if that's the case, fire Joe Shane. I don't have a problem with that. And chimes in, Rich, so you think if the Dolphins hire Chad Alexander, they bring in John Harbaugh as our coach, Alexander is just a figurehead and Harbaugh is controlling everything. I think no matter what, a guy like John Harbaugh wants total control. He wants total control. These guys have egos. They have egos, and they show their resume. Sean Payton, $20-something million. Sean Payton, 20. You know, I knew Sean Payton and Russell Wilson, it was never going to work when a reporter asked Sean Payton about the assigned parking. And Sean Payton's like, there's no assigned parking here. And Russell Wilson wanted assigned parking. Brandon Jacobs told me on the air that players, when you're in a locker room and you're part of a team of fraternity, everyone's got their cell phone. He told me on the air that guys he's boys with that played with Seattle when Russell Wilson was playing with Seattle, Russell Wilson did not give out his contact number. Russell Wilson made the players contact an assistant or a secretary communicate with him. And that's not going to fly in the NFL. That's not going to fly with Denver. That's not going to fly with Sean Payton. And they basically had to pay him and get rid of him. But that's the power that a guy like Sean Payton tosses around. Harbaugh's the same thing, for better or for worse. Stefanski doesn't have that body of work. Matt LaFleur doesn't have that body of work. Kingsbury doesn't have that body of work. McCarthy is, he'll give you the 10 wins, but a little bit of a pushover, not made for New York. You got to figure out the right fit. McCarthy, to me, Tennessee, Atlanta, not a lot of pressure. Tennessee, young quarterback. That's kind of like McCarthy. Kingsbury, is he going to be an offensive coordinator? Is he going to take that role first? Or maybe he goes to an Atlanta, works with Penix. I don't know. It's the NFL coaching tree. When you start to get into it, it's bizarre. Like, do we look at Kingsbury and say he flamed out with Washington, or do we also have to consider they had a lot of injuries this year? You're talking about a lot of their offensive weapons were injured. They were banged up pretty much the entire season. I mean, just go look at their depth chart. Guys were hurt constantly. McCaffrey, Brown, Debo, Scary. They're all banged up. You lose your franchise quarterback. That doesn't help. Tunsil, banged up, right? The defense lost a lot of players. They got older. So, obviously he's not controlling the defense, but point is, do we look at that? Is that a check mark against? Stefanski, the last 2 seasons in Cleveland, check mark against. Harbaugh, flamed out this season. Friction in the locker room, check mark against. Mike McDaniel, definitely lost the locker room, check mark against. It's the NFL. And unfortunately, sometimes these guys, we retread. How do you explain Pete Carroll? I mean, how do you explain Pete Carroll? Everyone says, well, he's young. He's vibrant. He's got youth. He runs up and down the sideline. That was a disaster. That was a disaster in Seattle. I think the Dolphins are going to, if the Dolphins, they know right now they can't really move too fast when it comes, you got to go through the Rooney Rule, minority candidates, the hiring process. There's a little bit of time. You try to bang that out quickly if you're already eyeing up someone. I believe they will have a new GM within the next day or two. I really do. And maybe if they do make the push for Harbaugh, maybe that GM kind of relents and says, hey, okay, listen, I am the GM, but you're going to have a lot of say on some of the moves. But that's a tough balancing act. Because if I'm a general manager, I want to be able to delegate. I want to be able to have final say over personnel. And even though I could be a GM, behind closed doors, maybe I'm not really making all the decisions, i.e. Chip Kelly and Howie Roseman. And that did not work out. So I think when you bring in a new GM, obviously he's going to have a substantial amount of say. But I still believe where there's smoke, there's fire. And the fact that they fired Mike McDaniel 24, 48 hours after Harbaugh got fired, I think they're eyeing him up big time. I think there's a heavy flirtation, a little petting going on, a little pillow talk, a little whispering. And I think they're going to go after him. I really believe that. Now, as I mentioned too, you got Alexander, you got Williams, and you got the Packers vice president of player personnel, Sullivan. You got Champ Kelly. So all these interviews are apparently finished up by all accounts. And teams want to get a jump. They want to get a jump. So let's just say if it is a Kelly who's the interim, slap the tag off him. Maybe they like the way he handled himself. You calm the waters a little bit. The dust is settled. And if he's the guy, for a fact, Stephen Ross is going to tell him, look, we ripped that interim tag off you. You're my guy, but we want to go after Harbaugh. Because ultimately, the owners sign off on it. So to kind of answer your question, I can see that being a scenario. I agree. Kyler was a reach, but teams always reach. A guy's elite athletic ability. The kid might have elite athletic ability to throw and run. I believe this kid could be a player. I do. Chambliss. When Peyton came here in Denver, lots of baggage and ego. Oh, 100%. 100%. But it's worked out. And again, correct me if I'm wrong. Now, just follow me for a second. The last time I checked, Sean Payton has had a lot of playoff failures. Sean Payton, for those that are killing me about you want to go young, Sean Payton, 62. He's been around the block. He won a Super Bowl early in his career, should have won multiple Super Bowls, kind of like Harbaugh. Keep following Q around the block like a Mission Impossible. Follow me around the room. How about the waitress, the two on the embankment outside? Keep following me around. He won 184 games, had a lot of playoff losses. And oh, by the way, with a young quarterback in the AFC, they're the top seed. But no, we got to go 35-year-old. Stop. Yeah, I'll counter any argument you have. Sean Payton won a Super Bowl his 4th year in the NFL. Harbaugh, early on in his career. Tomlin, early on in his career. Sean Payton, 62. Harbaugh, 63. I rest my case. On a Thursday. How about Daboll to Detroit as their offensive coordinator? He'd be a nice fit for the Lions and Dan Campbell's philosophy. How about Dan Campbell? Dan Campbell gave himself an F. Since when does a head coach grade himself? F, F, F. Why do you keep saying, now follow me? Follow me around the room. Yeah, Madman's on a little bit of a roll today. I give him that little bit. He's a little bit. Yeah, exactly. He better watch himself. The hole is dug. The lime is dealt. Mendoza. Mendoza to my JUCO. Hold on a second. You're knocking JUCO? Really? That's messed up. I went to JUCO and then transferred. So hold on a second. That's not nice. I went to JUCO and then went to YCP up in the mountains of PA. So come on. Man. Mendoza to Miami would be an incredible thing to happen. Local kid coming back home to Miami would be great for the NFL and that market. Yeah, but that's not happening at all. How about McShay basically saying, stay away from these franchises? I mean, if Mendoza wanted to, I won't say follow me. I mean, why are you not? That's messed up. Seriously, that's messed up. Who are you to judge JUCO? That's a bad job by you. See, that's kind of, we don't like that. That's a very stinkish air of somebody QQ, the commentator. We don't like that. We're all equals here. No one man is bigger than the show. We are all equals here. Now, Mendoza, a lot of NIL money. I'm sorry. I'm just still laughing at the JUCO comment. Mendoza's not, he's not going to the Dolphins. The Raiders or the Jets are going to grab this kid, which I think is a mistake for Dante to go to college. The kid has limited reps as a starter. That's a serious mistake. He needs to go back to Oregon. That's kind of Anthony chimes in, Dolphins fan. Appreciate that, brother. We like to know who the commenters, where they're from, where they're listening, and sports fans as well. I don't know. I didn't watch this kid enough to really give you any type of analysis. I mean, of what little I've seen, I mean, look, he looks good on film, but you also buyer beware. And I think to your point, Anthony Richardson had a handful of games, and that was a reach. And if you've got the GM of the Colts coming out already saying we're going to invest in Daniel Jones coming off a major injury long term. What does that say about Anthony Richardson? I mean, that's not good, right? So your point on Moore, um, you know, didn't he go to um, didn't he start his career at UCLA? He didn't do much last year, and this is kind of his full. Well, you know what? He played a little bit with UCLA, didn't play too much last year, that I know. And then this year got a lot of reps, but I understand what you're saying. He's a sophomore. You go back to school, your stock rises a little bit. I can't tell you who are the hot names, going back. I mean, there was a who said this? Was it McShay on Arch Manning that Arch Manning? Here you go. I think it was Vince's boy Orlovsky is stepping out of bounds for the safety. Orlovsky. One of these guys turned around and said that Arch Manning, if he were to come out, would be drafted by the Raiders. So in essence, saying Arch Manning is the best quarterback right now in college football. Now, are we believing that? He's returning to Texas, but I believe Orlovsky said, I'm reading it right now, Manning would be the number 1 pick in the NFL draft this year. Now, do you guys honestly believe that? I remember in August, September, you guys almost like foreshadowing Q, it's all about the name on the back of the jersey. That's what you guys were saying. Now, he started his career. That's a tough ask against Ohio State. I don't think Arch Manning is the best quarterback in college football. Maybe I'm missing something. But that's a pretty bold statement, is it not? That's a very, very bold statement. What do we got here? Let me see. What do we got here? Oh my God. Joey B with the real ad. Let me make see, this is coming off now. Let me tell you something. This is coming off a little confrontational. Let me make it easier for you, Q. Vinny disrespects our takes all the time, especially after all the credit we give him for correct picks. No. I don't disrespect your takes. You guys never give me credit. Absolutely not. The one time I actually wanted to pat myself on the back. What am I struggling with? New York City education. I didn't see again. I don't understand. Why are you taking these valid shots? You still going to get on me on Hyonuska or Giannis? I understand. That's fair. That's fair, right? About Anthony with a little torching going back, protecting Q. That's okay. Don't worry about it. Listen, I appreciate you. I can fight my own battles. Listen, sometimes these guys want to get on me, and I understand. They're probably bitter because I predicted Denver was going to win the AFC West and Kansas City was not going to win the division, and Denver's going to make the Super Bowl, and I predicted Carolina was going to be a playoff team, and I get it. Beeves is a alpha male in the room at the office. Angel is the supervisor that keeps a leash on him. What? Joey, what are we doing here? What Beeves? Who's Beeves? Did I miss something? Who's Angel? Oh, my Angel? Angel Martinez? Oh, okay. I got you. My Angel? Q is the alpha male that walked into the club down the in the 80s. Really? Seriously? I never smoked a cigarette in my life. Now, I will say this. Hold on. Q is the alpha male that walked into the club down the shore in the 80s. Joey, not that old. Newport Lights, no. Oldsmobile with a big back seat and a backup clone bottle of car in the center console. Now, hold on a second. That's not accurate. That is 100% not accurate. What's accurate is my first car. So this is a true story. I was one of the last in my high school because they mocked me. All my friends mocked me, pretty much mock the entire high school. It was an ongoing gag. I was one of the last ones in high school to pass my driver's test. Not only did I fail the written test, I think I failed the written test 7 times. But the actual driver's test, I could not parallel park for shit. Horrible. I mean, just for it was almost, you want to talk about panic mode, parallel parking, horrible. Now, can I do it right now? I can slide right into that spot, baby. Just boom, maneuverability, no problem. My father took me down the street, and at the time, he had a red BMW 325 IE. And he was like, "We're going to parallel park with this car." I said, "Okay." I was fine. Did a good job. Then around my birthday, he wanted me to wait before I went back for like my 20th time to take the driver's test. So I woke up one morning and it was my birthday, and I go downstairs and he goes, "Your car's out front. You owe me $1,800. Hand to God. True story. He was very old school. I walk outside and the car was an Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme, and it was a boat. It was a boat. He goes, "Go wash up. You're going to parallel park." And I'm thinking to myself, I can't. I start to panic. We go down the street. My father kept me outside, parallel parking, again, hand to God, for 7 hours until I almost snapped. I felt like I was captured and I was being interrogated, and the lights were on me and I was being tortured, and I was right there snapping and breaking, and I could not for the life of me parallel park. And I pleaded with him to stop. Like, I'm like, "Oh my God." Like, if I had a cell phone back then, I'm calling Dyfus. I can't call the cops because he was a cop. And I'm like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "You will take this car and you will friggin' pass your test. If you don't, you will never drive in your life." So, long story, took the Cutlass. I failed. Finally, he broke down and said, "Let's take the BMW." And I finally passed. It took, I'm going to say it took me almost 10 times to pass the written test, and the actual physical test, I'm not lying, 5 or 6 times. 5 or 6 times. But I had a Oldsmobile. I had a 1988, I think it was a Cutlass Supreme Oldsmobile. Loved that car. Loved that car. And by the way, Joey, a lot of memories in that car. I'm just a lot of memories. Did not have the Jakar. Okay. We didn't do that. We still probably rocked a little of the English leather, but there we go. Oh, we should have, could have, yeah, proved my point. No, I'm proving my point what Peyton's doing now. What Peyton is doing now. You're sitting there telling me that you can't hire an old coach. Well, Sean Payton's old. He's 62, and Denver Broncos top seed in the AFC. Sarge, Q, I'm absolutely rolling. Did you really fail your test that many times? Yeah, it was an ongoing gag. When I finally got my license and I walked in the cafeteria, they all stood up and they applauded. Yeah, it was bad. It was horrible. Yeah, it was horrible. But I love that car. That Cutlass Supreme. I had that car through college, and then when I was at JUCO and I was late for practice, it was a very windy, bendy road back in the day at BCC, right off of 206. And it was slick, and I slid it. I slid all over the place in the Cutlass, and I smacked into a tree. So for the remainder of the Supreme's life, I basically had a huge dent in the back. But I was like, "All right, let me see if I can jerry rig this." And I put like rope around it and just tied it. And that's how I finished out my little tenure in the Cutlass at JUCO, mind you. That car was a very good car. We don't disrespect that car. We don't. But I was not rocking the Newport lights. That's bad. Horrible. That's bad. That's bad. I am fired up, not happy. This is the stupid team I have to take Philly on Sunday. See, now let's dive into this for a second, man. You're angry not at me today. Again, yeah, Did did they have a lot of lot lizards over there? Now we got to it. See, this is what happens. I sit 2 hours, I take all the abuse. And for the new guys chiming in, I just want you to see this for what it really is. And now it comes out. The therapy session, me getting some of you guys sitting you on the sofa, walking you off the ledge. Now, Madman basically exposed himself. He's not mad at me. The disdain, the hate's not directed at me. He understands his 49ers are probably going to get their asses handed to him. Hence, I am fired up, not happy. This is the stupid team I have to take. I have to take the Philly Sunday. Yeah, that's bad. Really bad. Rich, hypothetically, if Miami hires John Harbaugh and he likes a young quarterback that we had at the end of the season, you're talking about Quinn Ewers, between Todd Monken and Cliff Kingsbury, who fits better? So that's a great question. Just to backtrack, one of the reports coming out of Baltimore, the rift was that, uh, you know, Harbaugh, think about it. Who's Harbaugh's guy, right? So when you're a head coach and you're going to a different spot, you want to um, typically, you know, take your guy with you. So Mumpkin's been the Ravens offensive coordinator for a couple years now. He had the great stint at Georgia. Um, and his whole role was, I'm going to make this defense, which really should be predicated around Derrick Henry now, right? I mean, still, yes, Lamar Jackson, but run the football first and foremost. You can't defend my offense. You can't. I'm going to space you out. I'm going to, we're going to have guys in motion, and it was supposed to be a key part of Lamar's development as a quarterback. Now, if you kind of go back, and again, you kind of read the room, there are reports that the pressure point for John Harbaugh's firing, and this is where loyalty comes into play, he refused to fire Todd Monken. Now, I think one of the tipping points for the Ravens and Harbaugh this season was the game against New England when Derrick Henry was running wild in the first half and he got limited touches in the second half. Like, you have a Hall of Fame back, run him downhill. Now, it kind of speaks to what we've seen in the past with Doug Peterson, what we're kind of seeing with Nick Sirianni, right? And Kevin Patullo. Now, he gets a pass, won the Super Bowl last year. I get it. You're talking different coordinators, apples and oranges, and now you're seeing it with Baltimore, Harbaugh, and Todd Monken. So the fact that he did not want to move on from him, some NFL insiders believe that was one of the pressure points where the Ravens just turned around and said, enough is enough. Enough is enough. And the fact that you had two guys meeting Sunday night who have pretty much been on the hot seat going into the season, all season long. Tomlin gets the better. You missed a field goal. You don't run Henry. I still believe you should have ran Henry late. You had 14 seconds left. You burned that last time out. Fine. Couple days later, he gets his walking papers. And that's where a lot of people are now reporting that he just did not want to fire his friend, the guy he felt comfortable with. And that also speaks to sometimes what's wrong with the NFL. I mentioned this yesterday with James Hasty talking about the nepotism or being too loyal, buddy buddy. That's a problem. That's a problem. I think Kingsbury in the right fit with a quarterback can work wonders. And here's another thing. If Baltimore moves on from Monken, then who's to say Kingsbury doesn't go to Baltimore as the offensive coordinator or head coach and works with Lamar Jackson? You're talking about a two-time NFL MVP, right? Uh, Tom McKay is only saying that, yeah, so that he doesn't upset Peyton because, yeah, that's true. I mean, I get that. I don't believe it. I mean, I understand why you're saying that, but I don't. Yeah, I don't advocate. you're coming out and you're blasting. I think we're talking about the same thing. Um, you're kind of blasting these kids to stay in college, and I certainly I get it, but sometimes there's going to be a hit and there's going to be a miss. There's no guarantee that whether it's Moore, Arch Manning, or Mendoza, they're going to be stud quarterbacks. There's no generational talent, is my point, right? Q, I told you when he was struggling, this would happen. His name is Manning. And they will, hold on a second, they will hype him until they can't anymore. Thank you, Anthony. I'm talking about John Harbaugh. Oh. Sorry, I got like 150 comments ripping through, but I appreciate the clarity. I do. Who do you think would be a better offensive coordinator, Kingsbury or Mike McDaniel? I want to know what happened in Washington. I'm curious. I'm trying to dig a little bit, and I want to figure out what the hell happened in Washington because I think there's more to that. Now, if you ask me who do you think would be the better head coach, more of an upside, I believe Cliff Kingsbury has a bigger upside than McDaniel. I think McDaniel comes off a little flaky. Like he doesn't strike me as a leader of men. But the problem is Kingsbury came in with guns ablazing. And the problem is he flamed out. Now, like I said, without hedging or moving back the goalpost, there was this mirage, right? Everyone talked about, hey, man, there's going to be this air raid offense. You got a young quarterback. Here we go. Quick reads, high volume, RPOs, spread the field. It never happened. 2024, let's go back. 2024, the first 9 games of the season, Washington averaged 30 points a game. They were 7-2. Jaden Daniels, MVP. Here we go. You get to the NFC Championship. Oh, how quickly times have changed, right? Because what happens in the NFL? And I'll actually give Madman credit this because Madman has been commenting and saying this for years. Teams in the NFL adjust, and the tape catches up to you. That's exactly what happened. So now all these coordinators in the NFL are looking at Washington, whether it's going to be Daniels, Mariota. Now I can pinpoint your tendencies, but I can also exploit your weakness. And that's what they did. It's exactly what they did. And my issue with Kingsbury is that at times he's too one-dimensional. Now, you can get away with it if you've got a back like Henry and you're running the football down your throat and you're averaging 6-point yards a clip. You couldn't do that in Washington. Now, if he comes over to Baltimore, they have to be a run-first offense. They have to. They have to. And I'm not saying, 60-40. I can live with, 53-47, right? JUCO math. 48-52, whatever. You can manipulate the numbers, but they have to be run heavy. And at times, when you look at what he was doing in Washington, they were balanced. And that's one of the reasons they were 7-2 after 9 games. They were very balanced. Everything was predicated on screen passes, quick hitches, slant routes. Let Daniels operate. You had running back by committee. Now we're going to throw it down the field. That's why they averaged so many points. But the league caught up with that because they adjust quick on the fly. So when you have lack of balance, I think, again, to kind of go back to the Harbaugh conversation, explain to me how you have a back in Derrick Henry and you don't utilize him. Hell, I'll do you one better. The Philadelphia Eagles, you have Saquon Barkley, and you're still not running the football. And I don't want to hear this, well, they're saving them for the playoffs. Like, without straying too far off course, and we'll talk more about it tomorrow, but if I'm on the air Monday and Saquon got 16 touches, the Eagles are not winning this game. You have a workhorse of a back that you have to feed the rock to just to keep these defenses honest and then open everything up in the passing game. You have to be diligent. Sometimes you have to stick with your running game, even if it's not working. Harbaugh went away from that. Kingsbury went away from that. It's one of the reasons that Harbaugh got fired. I believe there had to be a conversation with Monken. Listen, you've got a Hall of Fame back. If I'm going to allow you to call these plays, why are we not running him? Apparently, the conversation was never had because he didn't want to fire him. But there's no excuse. Baltimore dug themselves an early season hole. You give them credit for fighting out of it. You had to deal with Lamar Jackson being banged up. Henry was not the same back, but you still have to run the football. So guys like Munkin, Patullo, who I think is a horrible offensive coordinator. I mean, you guys can scheme better than he can. We can sit there, flag football, and tossing around in the street and say, cut to the mailbox and go to the Olds, go to the Cadillac, go to Miss Johnson's house and cut across. These guys are so vanilla and bland, and teams catch up. Defenses catch up. So you got a static scheme, and it catches no one by surprise. I don't know if I think Kingsbury has an opportunity first. Let me be an OC. Let me rebuild my resume. McDaniel, let me be an OC. Let me rebuild my resume. Then maybe in 2-3 years, I get a crack at being a head coach again. Especially McDaniel, because I believe there's a lot of friction coming out of Miami. And now you're going to hear a lot of reports of players that were just disgruntled, not happy. And when Tua ripped his own teammates, that did not sit well. But that's an indictment on the head coach. You can't control what a player says. You can't. But in the NFL, I have to have some control. I have to reel them in. You can't allow Tua, who's so inconsistent, who's always hurt, who's sporadic, who signed a monster deal that's going to be an albatross for the Dolphins, sit there when he's playing poorly and then call out teammates, and then the coach allows that. You can't. You just can't. That fractures and breaks a locker room. It does. And if you know anything about NFL locker rooms, defense guys tend to lean with the defensive coordinator. Offensive guys, I mean, it's a no-brainer. Tend to side with the offensive coordinator. Once in a while, you'll get the bleed over, the carryover, and then you get the guy that's caught in the middle. I think that happened in Washington. I certainly believe it happened with the Giants. I know it happened in Baltimore. Because if you're going to butt heads on the offensive scheme and Lamar Jackson's griping and not happy, the coach is going, not Lamar Jackson. You know that as well as I do. Not happen. It's just not happening. Now we understand how you ended up in JUCO. Wow, these are just unbelievable shots on Thursday. With Q failing the written driver's exam 7 times. There's a JUCO joke in there somewhere. Yeah, but that's really not fair. It's really not fair. But yeah, 7 times. The written test, I just could not pass it for the life of me. I even tried to cheat. I'm going to be totally transparent. I'm going to try, but unfortunately, and I remember this like it was yesterday. You always sit next to the guy that refuses to help you out. Like, bail me out, buddy. I've taken this test 7 friggin' times. You know what always tripped me up? It was, I think one of the like rolling through the stop sign as opposed to a complete stop. Come on. We've all been there. Vinny beat me to it unless Q took the bus to Really? I remember my first day of class in Burlington County College. I had to show someone how to use See, I'm done. I'm really done. I'm not going to allow this nonsense anymore. From JUCO to Olds to BMWs, Q got a cup. It wasn't mine. And by the way, car is a car. I don't care about that. Guess whose fault not using it? I'm done. Is it 6? It's well past 6 o'clock. All right, we got to start wrapping. I can't even get to like all these comments. I'm glad you guys got a kick out of it. All right, tomorrow, Football Friday. What the Frig Friday edition of On Q. Lloyd's going to join me. John Beeler's going to join me. I don't know where the hell Costco is. We're going to try to punch up Angel for a couple minutes too. I greatly appreciate the new listeners and commenters, and you guys have commented and you subscribe to the channel. That means everything to me. As far as the original Q crew, you guys are absolutely a bunch of jackass ball breakers. I love you to death, but man, you are giving it to me today. Don't forget, we're powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. Get ready with tea. Three Brooks Bourbon. I might have a little hot toddy later on tonight watching Miami roll. How about this? You guys want some NBA plays? Yeah, we'll start doing the Q's picks. We'll start bringing back some of the plays. Wild card weekend among us. And as we like to say, a little light night in the association with 4 games up on tap. We will have an announcement tomorrow on a new platform we'll also be streaming the show on. And by all accounts, it certainly is on the up and up. So we will dive into that a little bit. Another platform you'll be able to hear me as well, as opposed to those on Kicks and Rumble and X and YouTube. And my goodness, out in the parking lot, driving around in an Oldsmobile, whatever. Great stuff from the new listeners and the new commenters. Appreciate you guys greatly. 2 in the book, 6 o'clock straight up on SR 1029 FM The Game. Coastal Sports Digital Network, part of the AUDACY app. As always, I'm Rich Quinones. You guys have a wonderful Sports Thursday. Yeah, we'll be back for a 2-hour Football Friday bonanza tomorrow. If you missed the show, we're on demand. Check it out on the YouTube channel as well as Kicks and Rumble. Until then, have a good Sports Thursday. Be safe, be sound. As always, I'm Rich Quinones. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Hasta luego, buen día.